Welcome to the Databricks architecture. After this video, you will have pretty good idea of all the main components of the Databricks, how those fits into the bigger picture, or something what they are frequently calling on the interviews a technical vision. You will be able to explain the difference between the compute plane and control plane, list down all main types of the compute, explain account versus workspace, and couple other interesting things. And to be frank at the beginning, this is not really a video for the advanced users. Advanced users, I'm pretty sure you already know that. This is more for somebody who is starting his journey with the Databricks and trying to figure out what does what. Let's get started. There is no other better way to explain Databricks architecture than to start from technical vision or reference architecture, so how the bigger picture looks like. So at the beginning we have a data. And then we need to ingest our data, so we have a layer called ingest in our technical vision, and depends on the nature of the data, it can be Kafka or can be Azure Data Factory or other solution. And in case of the batch processing, this data it's usually being saved to the storage in the form of what we are calling raw files, from where, or directly from Kafka, our hero of the night, Databricks, supported by Apache Spark library and MLflow, machine learning flow, process that data and go to what we are calling a medallion architecture. So at the beginning, it grabs the data, save it to the first layer of the tables, bronze layer, where usually a data are one-to-one to the raw files, just now in the form of the table. Then we have some cleaning, joining, and we end up having a silver layer and then a business aggregation, and we end up with the gold layer. So this is once again a medallion architecture, and that's how it looks like, at least according to the book, because in the reality the life is more complex. And then Databricks can distribute a data to the next layer, which is called a serving layer, like operational databases, so model serving services or other data warehouses. So users, other tools, applications, or bot AI can grab and use those data. And the serving layer is optional. Of course, the users and the applications can go and grab models and the data directly in the Databricks, but it really depends on the use case. Sometimes using a specialized operational database will be faster, and that's what we want to do. And if we are paying attention, then we can see that some components are still missing over here. And one very important component is a data governance. As our data grow, we need to have a way to control it, to describe it, to check the lineage. So we need to have a data governance in that whole picture. Then the next thing is a workflow orchestration, where we can schedule execution of different scripts or algorithms. And one more thing is CI/CD, of course, because we are a mature development team, so we want to have a proper testing, integration, and the deployment. And that's how the technical vision looks like. So let's now zoom in on the Databricks architecture. So of course we need to have a storage, and this is already important because in the Databricks a default data format is Delta format, also known as a Delta Lake, and this is already delivering a lot of benefits. Now we have a user who wanna do something with the data and he needs to access Databricks. Two main ways of accessing the Databricks. Well, for the power user, it's more a CLI, command line interface, and for the regular business users, that will be primarily Databricks web interface, and this is the first component of the Databricks. And whenever we have a users, we of course need to have user management and access management, and that will be another component of the Databricks architecture. And our users will be after writing a query, some code, SQL, Python, R, or Scala. And in the Databricks architecture, we have a number of the solution to write the codes. Or maybe our user will be more advanced and he want to do machine learning algorithm or AI. Databricks is investing in AI heavily and it's delivering a lot of new solutions recently. So why not? And then we are going to have area in the Databricks architecture dedicated for that. And once we will be successful in writing a code or creating a model, we will be after scheduling it. So it's being executed regularly. And in the Databricks architecture, we are having this workflow orchestration. And at the end, once our data will grow or the number of the models will grow, machine learning models, we will need to have a data governance solution, and the Unity catalog, it's a Databricks solution exactly for the data governance. Now, whenever we will be after executing our codes on doing some computation, we need to have some kind of the processing power behind, we need to have our workhorse. And in the Databricks, we have 4 types of them. First one is all-purpose compute. This is a cluster which we can create where we can do whatever we want, create machine learning algorithm, explore some data, whatever we want. Then we are going to have a classic job computes. Those will be clusters which we'll be using for workflow orchestration, or we can create SQL warehouse compute, which is specializing in performing SQL queries, or the latest and the greatest, serverless compute. This is where actually we don't need to do anything on our side. We can rent a processing power from the Databricks, which is really fast and very easy. And now let's take a look on other aspects like analytical tools, applications, maybe something for the CI/CD or infrastructure as a code like a Terraform, or again, a bad AI who wanna destroy the world and needs to use the data in the Databricks. So how those tools will access Databricks? Well, there are 2 main ways of accessing Databricks for them. The first one is Software Development Kit SDK, which is really handy and we can use it in our Python code, or API. And API is very robust, and actually most of the things you can do through the Databricks web interface, you will be able to do through the API. Just for the applications, of course, if we want to automate something, it's just way better than using a web interface. And at the end, I was actually hesitating if I should put it here. I will explain it later on, but each workspace will have their own local DBFS storage. It will be explained just in a second. So that's how the main components of the Databricks architecture looks like. Now let's take a look on how this really looks like in the interface. And that will be the fastest demo on the YouTube, because I assume that each of you have already seen a Databricks at least once. We are right now in the workspace, which, to be frank, is just the reflection of Databricks architecture, and on the left we have a main menu. And let me start from the second tab, SQL, where it's really dedicated for SQL queries, but it's not so simple. We have there a lot of cool things like dashboards we can build. Really, it's not super sophisticated, but quickly some dashboards, and if I'm not mistaken, it's based on Apache Superset. And then we can set up some alerts so we can get some emails if something happened in the data. Or we have a Genie, new Databricks AI assistant, which you can configure relatively easily for a business users so they can use a natural language to query the data. They don't need to even learn SQL nowadays. And then going down, we have a part for the data engineering, jobs, where we are basically, it's orchestration. We are scheduling some activities to be performed, and Delta Live Table, which is a part of the data engineering. And then we have pretty extensive and super interesting part, which is for machine learning. Databricks is investing really heavily in AI and machine learning, and it's not surprising. Everybody goes this direction. That's where the money is today. But let me scroll to the top, because there is one more place where we can write our codes, and that's a workspace where we can create notebooks. And if I click on the notebook, then I can connect a notebook to different cluster. In my case, this notebook is connected to serverless, so I'm renting the processing power from the Databricks. If you don't have option to connect it to the serverless, I will show you later on in the future demo in a couple of minutes how to turn it on. Otherwise, I can connect it to my own cluster. And clusters I can create over here in compute, where I can create all-purpose clusters, so I can do with them whatever I want, job compute for orchestration specific, SQL warehouse specialized in SQL processing, and then I have some vector search, but this is part of this Databricks AI offering. And that's how the workspace looks like. Really simple. To make things a bit more interesting, let's take a look on the Databricks from the different perspective. So the moment we want to start using a Databricks, we log into our cloud provider, look for the Databricks, and there we are going to have an option to create something that is called Workspace. And the Workspace, using a simple words, it's a sort of isolated environment where we are going to work. But the moment we will create a Workspace, it's also the moment a Databricks will create for us account. And while we can have multiple workspaces, so the places where people will work for our company will have only one account. And depends what do we want to configure, we will be configuring that either directly in the workspace, or some things we will be configuring on the account level. And our account and our workspaces are accessed separately, so you use a different paths to access that. And for instance, here on the left we see the URLs, how we can access a Databricks account. There is also a shortcut in the workspace, so you don't need to remember. And in case of the workspaces, we will get a URL with those bold numbers. This is the workspace ID. And what is also important, each our workspace will get a kind of the local storage starting with the DBFS. This is not so much for the production use, but it can come handy. And we can have as many workspaces as we want. For instance, we can give a separate workspace for each team, so they think that they are the only one using a Databricks. Or we may want to create a workspace per environment like test and the production. Really depends on our use case. So now let's take a look how to log into that account and how it looks like. To explain workspaces and account, let's do the step back and let's say that we just want to start using a Databricks. And in my case, I use Microsoft Azure for this YouTube channel. I log into Azure portal, type a Databricks over here. Azure Databricks popped up, and now I can create my first workspace. So I click create, using some standard settings and standard resource group, doesn't really matter. And let's say that we are creating a workspace for the sales team workspace. And then I'm choosing a region. This is important. I want to have it in the West Europe. You are going to see later on why this is important. And then just review and create. And from there, I can launch my workspace. I also have a URL with workspace ID over here. I click launch workspace. And we are now in the familiar for us place, where we see everything what we have seen before. If I go to catalog, I'm going to see that I'm using something what is called Hive Metastore. That's also something what you will get by default when you will create a new workspace. But now what is important? Let's go to the right top corner over here and I see the name of my workspace. Once I will click it, then all the available for me workspaces are listed down over here, and also on the bottom I have an option manage account, and if I click it, this will take me to the account level, completely different settings. Again, everything for what we are doing so far, it's free. So here I can configure additional things, and I have here a list of my workspaces, the same what I have seen on the Azure portal. I have here information about the catalog, about the Metastore, and Metastore in my case for some reason it's called Unity 11 and region is in West Europe. Some usage, user management, super important, cloud resources, and so some settings. And settings actually are important, we will not go through them, but what I promised to you a couple of minutes ago, that I will show you how to enable the serverless compute. And what you can do that is on the account level. Once you will go to settings and then to the third tab, feature enablement, you will have option, the first option on the list, serverless compute for workflows, notebooks, and Delta Live tables. So you need to turn it on in order to have an option to use a serverless compute in your notebook. And I will switch for a moment just to the workspaces to see if the workspace which we have created a second ago exists over here, and it's the first one, and I see that it's not assigned to the Unity catalog just yet. Now let's say a couple of words about the Unity catalog. Unity catalog is here to help you with the data governance, but it doesn't mean that you have to use Unity catalog. You can use a default solution which is called a Hive Metastore, very simple, but with us for many years, and it's having its benefits. It works out of the box because it's a default solution and it's very simple. The primary purpose of the Hive Metastore is to manage your objects like tables or views. And once you will decide to use a Hive Metastore, well, first of all, you are quitting a lot of benefits of the Unity catalog, but the user management and the Metastore, so the high-level object container of all the objects, will be configurable on the workspace level. This is important. Then you can decide to use the Unity catalog, and with the Unity catalog, the things will change. Some things which were previously configurable on the workspace level will be promoted to the account level, and the things like the user management or the Metastore configuration you will be doing over there. Actually, the user management you will be able to still do on the workspace level, but it's not recommended. It will be recommended to go on the account and do that there. And on the top of that, there will be a lot of goodies coming from the Unity catalog, like a data catalog, which is super important, data lineage, and many other things. You will centralize your governance across the workspaces, or you will have a multi-cloud support. So, and it's free. So there is really hard to think about the good reason why not to use the Unity catalog. If you know such, let me know in the comment section. And then Unity catalog will also have the same functionality as the Hive Metastore, meaning we will be able to manage our objects. We will still have this Metastore functionality. Just with the Unity catalog, it will not be any longer two layers of the Metastore, like in case of Hive, but with the Unity catalog, we will have three layers of the management: catalog, schema, and below the schema we will have tables, views, volumes, and functions, and the tables will be either managed or external. If we will decide to create a table as managed, then the Unity catalog will be managing both metadata and the data, meaning if we will delete a table, it will drop everything, metadata and data, or external. And once we will delete a table, then we will delete only the metadata in the Unity catalog. The data under the hood will be untouched. This and many other details about the tables and manage external are really well explained in the movie called Delta Lake tutorial, link you will find in the video description. Now let's take a look on how this Metastore configuration looks like. And we are now back in our workspace created for the sales team. If I click on the left into the catalog, we are going to see that we are using the Hive Metastore. And again, a Hive Metastore stores a schema, table definition, partitions, and location for structured data in the database. And we see that we have two layers: tables, schema, and the Hive Metastore. Actually, right now I don't have any tables, but if I click a shared, which was there by default, then I can see that I have some tables, schemas, and again, everything is under the Hive Metastore. Simple, and it works. But now, if we move back to the account console and then we go to the catalog, here we have the Unity catalog Metastore. So this is the alternative to the Hive Metastore in the Unity catalog. Unity catalog is more than just Metastore, but Metastore is a part of it. And I have one Metastore already created. You can create it, it's very easy, and again, doesn't cost anything. I will go inside of my Metastore and just choose Workspaces, and I see a Workspaces assigned to that Metastore. Now I can assign our new workspace to it by assign to Workspace, and let me choose a sales team workspace and enable Unity catalog. Yes, please. And the thing is that the workspace has to be created in exactly the same location as the Metastore. That's why it was so important to choose, in my case, the West Europe, and in your case, wherever you will have a Metastore. And I highly encourage you to go through that process just to play around with the account and workspaces, because many of us, when we are working in the corporate, we don't have access to those things, but we can replicate them in our account, our own account, and it doesn't cost anything, just builds up our Unity catalog and overall Databricks architecture knowledge. And let me refresh Workspace, and I already see that Metastore is we have Unity 11, and I have some additional information about our workspace. But anyway, let's get back to the workspace, and again I will go to the catalog, just this time the things has been changed. We still see a legacy, a Hive Metastore and the data which were there, but right now we have a new layer, my organization, where we can create a catalog, schemas, and the tables. So lever more than in case of the Hive Metastore, I could create a catalog by clicking add and add catalog and test catalog create, and it would be created over here on the level of the Hive Metastore. So the Unity catalog, besides many other goodies, gave us this additional layer of the configuration. But more about the Unity catalog in the next movie. And it's time to talk about compute. In Databricks, actually, we have 4 types of the compute. But doesn't matter which type we are discussing, we always mean by saying compute some sort of the resources to execute our codes, to execute our pipelines, data science projects, whatever we want to do with the data, that's where we need a compute. And in each of that compute, we are going to have Apache Spark, which is a fundamental element of almost everything what is happening in the Databricks to process a big volume of the data. And every time we are talking about Apache Spark, we will be talking about the driver and the workers. We are getting a cluster, and in each cluster we have one driver and one or more workers. And 4 types of the computes which we'll be having in the Databricks. First one is a generic compute where we can do everything, some exploratory work, we can schedule some jobs, whatever you want, you can do there, but it's expensive or more expensive than others. Then we will have a job compute clusters, which are specialized to execute scheduled by us tasks. So whenever we are doing the workflow orchestration, that's where we are choosing a job cluster. So we are not using it whatever way we want, just to execute specific task. And then we are going to have a SQL warehouse compute, which is specialized, which is fine-tuned for the SQL queries. And the latest and greatest, serverless compute, that's where we don't need to worry about the clusters by ourselves, but a Databricks will provide one using their own resources for us. And in terms of Apache Spark, it's so important component of the Databricks that I highly encourage you to check out another really good video about Apache Spark architecture. Link below the video. And now let's take a very quick look on those computes. And I'm not sure if there is anything left to be covered about the computes. We discussed 4 types of the compute: all-purpose, job, SQL, and serverless. You know how to turn on the serverless, and you know that the resources will come from the Databricks account. And here, for instance, this is the compute which we have created. To browse the data in Hive and Unity catalog, I just created a small compute, which I need to stop it if I don't want to pay for it. So let me stop it, and that's it. More advanced things about computes will come in the future movies. As we are heading to the end, few quick things before we will close. Well, at the beginning we said that we have a CLI, SDK, and API. Those are fairly easy to use, nevertheless pretty extensive and requires a bit of practice. We will be doing that in one of the next episodes. And interesting, once we will look on that snapshot on the right, the Databricks API, we will see that we have a separate endpoint for a workspace and for the account. And by now you already know why. Another interesting thing is what is part of the Databricks account and what is part of yours cloud account. When we will take a look on the Databricks architecture, what do you think? Which parts of it are located in the Databricks cloud? And the answer is everything related with the user management, Databricks interface, of course, Unity catalog, workflow, and ML AI, but also queries and the codes. This is located on the Databricks site. So whenever we are typing something in the notebook, it will go to the Databricks account. And this is common misperception. Another thing which will be located on the Databricks side, it's of course serverless compute, as this is basically the processing power which we are renting from the Databricks. And the last thing from this diagram, it's API, which is of course a part of the Databricks cloud. Everything else is on our side. So data stays on our side unless we rent a serverless compute, then we are sending a data for the computation to the Databricks cloud. But even there is a pretty solid network separation. And the last thing, which part of it is a control plane and which part of it is a compute plane. And this one is fairly simple. Of course, everything here on the left is a control plane. Those are elements which are controlling the behavior of our Databricks plus API. And everything on the right, this is a part of the compute plane. You know that I thought that this video will take 3, maybe 5 minutes max, but there is so many interesting components of the Databricks architecture, impossible to fit into 5 minutes video. Nevertheless, I hope that you find it useful. I hope that it will help you to organize your knowledge, help you to grow. And 2 other already available on the YouTube channel, very valuable movies, are linked in the description of the movie. One of it is Spark Architecture, essential component of the Databricks. And the second one is about Delta format, also known as a Delta Lake, one of the reasons why Databricks is so fast. In the next episode, we will explore the Unity catalog. Don't forget to leave a comment, as this helps me to promote the channel. Otherwise, thanks for watching and see you soon.